Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at another very cool Bullyland figure, and this is their Dimetrodon. I absolutely love Dimetrodon. I always have, ever since I was a child. I've always really been drawn to this animal. Something about it was always just so fantastic to me, and it follows through as an adult. I really am a huge fan of Dimetrodon, and every single time I see a figure of one, I'm always very tempted to get it, regardless of whether I think it's a great looking figure at first glance, or if it's not so great. I'm always willing to give it a chance if it is a Dimetrodon, and I saw this Bullyland Dimetrodon not long ago in some images, and I was really quite impressed, honestly, at first glance. But I never can truly tell with figures until I get them in person how good they really are, and in person I'm actually still quite impressed with this Bullyland Dimetrodon. I really think that the sculpt overall looks really cool, and the beautiful paint on the sail is extremely flashy, but again, somehow natural. Bullyland does a good job, honestly, I think, on the overall ideas they come up with when it comes to the paint schemes of their figures and how natural they might actually look. Definitely a really nice paint job as far as the paint scheme they've gone with, and even the actual paint application is quite nicely done as well. So the only way to really tell just how nice the Bullyland Dimetrodon is to get a closer look at it, so let's do that right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt looks pretty good. You've got the very nicely sculpted out nostril there that's painted with a blackish color, so it's quite nicely elaborated thanks to that darkish coloration. You've also got the ear sculpted out back there, and the eyes actually look beautiful. Really nice painted eye with a beautiful yellowish coloration, a very nice striped black pupil, and it glosses and shines very realistically as well. The opposing eye also looks really quite nice. Very nicely placed within the eye socket also, which is definitely a plus. The detailing of the face looks pretty decent. It's nothing over the top. It's kind of like a trademark Bullyland sculpt where it looks pretty good, but it's all that same similar style of sculpt, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, the application of the blue-ish coloration right here isn't really that great. Kind of looks more like a smear of paint than actual body color, which is a little bit of a downside. I think it's much more nicely applied on this side. I definitely like it significantly more on this side as opposed to the other side. Again, this could be just something that's limited to my figure because I feel like it was just a sloppy brush stroke that enabled a little bit of a sloppy look to the face, and otherwise I think it looks quite nice. This Dimetrodon does come with an articulated jaw, which is always a good thing. A lot of people love the articulated jaw gimmick. Inside the mouth, you can kind of get in there to see that the mouth is like a reddish coloration. You've got the tongue in there, but it's really hard to get in there and actually see what's going on as far as detailing and paint due to the mouth being pretty small. And the jaw only opens so wide, so you can't get in there too far. But I think it looks decent, definitely good enough. The teeth are kind of sloppily painted. You can see some of the paint of the teeth doesn't look that great, especially up here on the upper side of the jaw. On this side, there are definitely some issues here and there when it comes to the painting of the teeth, and in general, I'm not a big fan of the teeth and the way that they look in the mouth. I think they just are a little bit too big and bulky for my taste, and they sort of appear to be positioned awkwardly, like they're almost sticking out of the mouth a little bit, but I don't think they're the worst thing in the world, and with the mouth actually closed, I still think it looks pretty decent, just a little bit off as far as the way that the teeth should look. There are quite a few different variations of green included on the body, and then there's like a nice dry brushing of like a light yellowish coloration in certain areas, which helps to bring out some of the detail quite nicely, and also helps to give it a little paint variation as well, which is a plus. You've got some creasing here in the neck, really nice detailing, quite a bit of hanging skin actually in the throat right here as well. Moving back here into the body, you can see some nice scaling here and there, and again you can see areas of like that bluish gray type of color. You've also got some areas of that yellowish coloration, and then green and even darker variations of green throughout, so there's a lot going on as far as skin tone goes. You've got a very nice sculpt on the front leg here, beautiful creasing and skin folding at the base of the front leg, very nicely sculpted out elbow as well as some really nicely folded skin in the elbow area. And then looking down here, you've got a pretty nicely sculpted foot, beautifully painted nails as well. We're not going to base this Dimetrodon at all off of scientific accuracy because this one was made quite a while ago. Let's see if there's a date on this. Unfortunately, not one that I can find. It does state that this is in 1/15 scale, but unfortunately no date, so I do know it's been out for quite a little while though, so we can't really judge this or base this on scientific accuracy, as the sculpt is definitely outdated currently. Coming up here into the body, you can see quite a bit of wavy skin here in the stomach region, a lot of skin folding and skin wrinkling going on. Nice scale work all over the place. The sail looks beautiful, really nicely sculpted as far as the detailing of the sail goes, but the paint application also looks great. Starts out with like this green and then transitions to a nice yellow, but you also have this red that kind of has a very cool design and spots and stuff in certain areas. I really do quite like the sail. It also has a bit of a wavy appearance to it if you look at it from above. Very nice work as far as the sail goes. As we come back here, you can see the rear leg is nice and thin like you would expect to find. Nice kneecap right there. Beautifully painted nails, again very nicely sculpted out foot. And there's also that really beautiful dry brushing in certain areas with that light bluish gray type color. And then we lead out the length of the tail, which has a slight curve, and it looks pretty good as well. Very nice striping that goes down out here at the end of the tail, a little bit with that light grayish blue color as well. Looking at the opposing side, you can again see lots of skin wrinkling and skin bunching up here in the neck. You got a good bit of hanging skin again. I really feel like there should have been a little more skin scrunching up on this side and a little more skin stretching on this side, with the Dimetrodon having its head turned to the left, but I don't really think it takes away from the figure or anything like that. Nice musculature here in the front leg, very nicely sculpted out elbow. Again, you've got lots of creasing here in the base here where the leg connects to the body, similar to what we saw on the opposing side. There is the nicely sculpted out foot, beautifully painted nails once again. Moving back here into the body, you can see some skin stretching off of the body there, as this leg is pulling the skin and stretching the skin quite nicely. Very nice detailing again in the stomach as far as the scale work goes. Even the underside has some pretty decent sculpt and detail. Very nice paint application with, again, many different tones of color all throughout. Looks quite realistic with a little bit of dry brushing here and there, which I'm not a huge fan of certain areas of that dry brushing, but it does add some color variation, so any chance at adding a little color variation is a plus, because it looks much better than had it just been green and one solid tone of green. I really think the uses of different colors throughout does help a little bit to add some realism to it. And again, the sail up here on the back looks fantastic. Beautifully sculpted, beautifully painted, just like we saw on the previous side. Again, a little bit of a curve to it as well. Rear leg looks good, very low to the ground. As the front legs are lifting the body up off the ground, the rear legs are much lower and much more spread out closer to the ground. Nice foot sculpt, nicely painted nails. And again, we've got the really nice tail, which does include some of that striping with that bluish gray coloration here at the back. You also have a cloaca here on the underside, just to add that little bit of extra realism. The only real downside, again, aside from this little bit of sloppy paint here and the fact that it's a bit of an outdated sculpt, is right here with the articulated jaw. Once the jaw is closed, you've got a pretty big gaping gap right here between the jawline and the throat. Once you open it to about right there, it kind of disappears. You don't see it really at all. And I think it gives the figure a pretty nice, very striking appearance with its mouth open. Even if I'm not a huge fan of the teeth, I really think that it does give it quite the appealing look. So if you do buy the figure and you're just going to display it, I think maybe opening the mouth to about that distance is a pretty decent idea, because once the mouth is closed, you can definitely pick up on that gap. But again, even with the mouth closed, you don't see the gap unless you turn the figure over. So it's at the same time not a terrible idea to have the mouth closed, but I think it might look a little better with it open till about there. As far as the size goes on the Dimetrodon, from the head to the tail, you're looking at about 7 inches or around 18 centimeters, maybe 17.5 centimeters, somewhere in that range. For a height, you are looking at about 4 inches or 10 centimeters to the top of the sail, or about 2 3/4 inches or around 7 centimeters to the top of the head. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the very shy Attack Pack Colovosaurus back there, hiding its face behind the Dimetrodon sail, and Robert Muldoon from the Jurassic World toy line right there in the front. And you can definitely get a good idea, if you happen to have any of these figures, of the size of the Dimetrodon. It's not anything super huge, but it's definitely got a little bit of size to it. I'd say it's a pretty easily a medium-sized figure and quite nicely sized as far as a Dimetrodon goes. So hopefully you'll have one of these figures at least, or something similar, and you'll have an idea of around how this sizes up. So this Bullyland Dimetrodon is definitely a pretty nice figure. It's not the best Dimetrodon out there, that's for sure. It really isn't even that close to being the best Dimetrodon. But is it an appealing Dimetrodon? Yeah, absolutely. I really quite like it. Again, I'm very drawn to the Bullyland figures. More so over the past few years, I've really taken quite a liking to them, and they've really grown on me. And that was one of the reasons why I went ahead and purchased this Dimetrodon, because I am, like I said, a huge fan of a Dimetrodon. And as I'm really starting to get a soft spot for Bullyland figures, I really wanted to own the Bullyland Dimetrodon, and I'm really quite happy with the purchase. I think that the sculpt overall is pretty much your trademark Bullyland sculpt as far as the detailing goes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, as it does look quite nice. I think the paintwork could have been a little bit better, just in specific areas, like maybe looking at the face where that kind of has that sloppy bluish gray paint, and then the teeth are quite sloppy. I think the teeth are the only real big issue when it comes to this figure, because the teeth are really sloppily painted for one thing, and the overall sculpting of them does not look really that great. But if you can move past the teeth, I think that the overall appearance of this Dimetrodon is still quite nice. And again, being an outdated Dimetrodon figure, for its time it was probably a pretty appealing looking figure, but personally I still really do quite like it. I think the paint on the sail is fantastic. I really love the overall design that they've gone with, something I could have potentially seen on a Dimetrodon. Really flashy, really cool, but at the same time really natural. So this Dimetrodon from Bullyland is definitely not a bad figure, and if you are a fan of Dimetrodon like me, it's one that you might want to pick up. So I will include a link in the description to Dejankins.com where you can pick up this Bullyland figure right now for yourself if you are in fact interested. I'm unfortunately not 100% sure if this is retired, as I had heard a lot of the Bullyland figures when it came to their prehistoric line were being retired, but I know Bullyland has kind of recently been resurrected and is now back and up and running, so maybe it's not retired, I really have no idea. But regardless, if you do want to pick it up, I will include a link, like I said, to Dejankins.com where you can do just that. So make sure you check the description, head on over there, pick up this very cool Bullyland figure, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.